This is NBC Nightly News with John Chancellor and David Brinkley. Tonight, Friday, June 24th, reported by John Chancellor from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. When President and Mrs. Carter finally figured out their 1976 income taxes, they discovered that they didn't owe the Treasury a cent. But today, the President disclosed that, as a matter of principle, he will pay $6,000 tax on his gross income of $55,000. The White House made public copies of the Carters' joint return, and Bob Jameson has the details.
In what may be the most unusual letter the IRS has ever received from a president, Mr. Carter asked the government to take $6,000 from him and his wife, even though they owed no income tax. The president wrote the IRS that because of his strong feeling that a person should pay some tax on his income, he wants the government to accept the payment, which the IRS says it will. The $6,000 represents about 15% of his net taxable income for 1976. It was, Aide said, a logical standard. The president prepaid approximately $26,000 in taxes, and now he will end up with a $20,000 refund. Mr. Carter didn't owe any taxes because he took an $11,675 investment tax credit for a new peanut storage facility at Carter's warehouse in Plains. This cut his taxes to zero. The president's income in 1976 was nearly $55,000. In 1975, he earned $136,000. Aide said the difference was due to a decline in sales of farm supplies and services at Carter's warehouse. The $70,000 earned in royalties from his book, Why Not the Best, was not included in this year's return. The IRS ruled the money should be put on his 1977 return. The decision to give the government $6,000 was apparently made after Mr. Carter signed the return on June 6th. When asked if the payment is conscience money, Press Secretary Jody Powell said no. The reason, he said, is just as stated. The president feels everybody should pay something. And furthermore, said Powell, the president won't deduct the $6,000 next year as a contribution. Bob Jameson, NBC News at the White House.
In 1973, Spiro Agnew resigned as vice president after pleading no contest, the equivalent of a guilty plea, to charges of federal income tax evasion. Now it has come to light that the tax people are after Agnew for almost $14,000 in back taxes and penalties for that same year. The IRS says Agnew failed to report as income services provided by the government, and it disallowed certain other claims he put in for entertainment and expenses. Also on the program this evening, an important Supreme Court decision on parochial schools, more on the growing controversy over the neutron bomb which kills without destroying property, and a special report on some best-selling books in this permissive age in which a kiss is a very big deal.
Oil of Olay. Listen to what women around the world are saying about this mysterious beauty fluid.
Et aussi, avec Oil of Olay, mon visage n'est pas gras. Et c'est important d'avoir l'air naturel.
When I use Oil of Olay, my skin feels clean, smooth and fresh. It's grand.
I just have a different, younger look since using Oil of Olay.
Discover the secret of Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger too.
Oil of Olay ist prima, fabelhaft und wunderbar.
Well, the higher coffee prices go, the more you need Mr. Coffee. Mr. Coffee, with this exclusive coffee saver, saves coffee, saves money. Two ways. First, percolators make you use up to 50% more coffee per potful than Mr. Coffee. Second, with Coffee Saver, you make only the exact number of cups you want. That's great. Remember, Mr. Coffee with Coffee Saver saves coffee, saves money.
The Supreme Court ruled today that states may pay for certain kinds of tests for students in church-run schools, but on the more important issue of state money for expensive teaching equipment for parochial schools, the High Court said no. Today's decision came in a case brought in Ohio. Carl Stern reports.
About 250,000 children go to church-run schools in Ohio. Nationwide, they number almost 5 million. Legislatures in some states repeatedly have tried to help the church-run schools, but have run afoul of constitutional problems. And today, the Supreme Court struck down major portions of a new Ohio law, which funneled $45 million a year to the church schools. The Supreme Court said no to state help in purchasing teaching equipment, which these days can cost lots of money. Ohio had based its new law on the theory it was lending the equipment to the children and their parents, not the schools. But the court said no matter what the theory, such aid inevitably flows in part to assist the religious role of the schools. That view is disputed by officials of the Ohio Catholic Conference.
If I have, for example, a little math machine that a child uses to help him with multiplication, addition, or subtraction, and if it's a fixed content piece of equipment, again, we find it difficult to see how anyone would suggest that you're aiding religion when you help a child with his multiplication tables.
The court today did uphold the use of state money for health and educational testing of the students and therapy services. That was a victory for the church-run schools. They will continue to get tax money for textbooks and bus transportation, approved some years ago, although the court today ruled out bus money for field trips for the schools. Church officials expressed some disappointment, but said they would oppose any reduction in state aid, despite today's decision limiting what the money can be spent for. Carl Stern, NBC News, Washington.
President Carter won a victory for his energy policy today in the House Ways and Means Committee. With a lot of help from the White House and despite a lot of opposition from car manufacturers, the committee approved, without further cuts, a tax on gas-guzzling cars. John Cochran has more.
Just 2 weeks ago today, President Carter was complaining about the power of the automakers' lobby on Capitol Hill. Now it's the automakers who are complaining about a White House blitz.
When the Ways and Means Committee met today, a lot of people, including these lobbyists from Detroit, thought the committee might vote to delay the president's gas guzzler taxes until 1980 or later. But these White House lobbyists had worked overnight, convincing the committee there should be no delays. And the committee voted to impose the taxes in 1979 on cars that get fewer than 15 miles per gallon. Chairman Al Ullman said the president's lobbyists have improved their tactics recently.
Well, the White House has made some mistakes. There's no question about that. But I think, yes, they're doing a much better job. They're learning the business.
But Congressman Broadhead from Detroit said the White House should not be proud of killing off big cars.
If you put the tax on a car is not going to exist. I think that what we ought to be doing is nudging the industry along, pushing the industry along, but I don't think we ought to be punitive, and I think this tax is punitive.
The president's energy advisors are feeling good about today's vote, and some of them predict that by the time the taxes on gas guzzlers pass both the House and the Senate, they will be even tougher on Detroit than those approved today. In the Senate, the tax bill must pass through Russell Long's Finance Committee. Long is from Louisiana, and one White House official said, "As far as I know, they don't make any cars in Louisiana." John Cochran, NBC News, the Capitol.
The federal government today gave up its plan to convert signs on highways across the country to the metric system. The Federal Highway Administration says there's just too much opposition from the public to its proposal to change miles to kilometers. And under a law that went into effect today, all drinking water in the United States must now meet federal standards for purity for the first time.
Right now at Radio Shack, when you buy one realistic blank cassette tape, you get a second tape at no added cost. You save 50%. It's an old-fashioned two-for-one sale to acquaint you with realistic brand cassette tape made in our own factory. Record your favorite music for playback on any car or home cassette system. The two-for-one realistic cassette tape sale, only at Radio Shack. A Tandy Company.
That was some party. You stayed until 2. Now your head and your stomach can't blame no one but you. Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz.
Here it comes, upset stomach and aching head. The plop, plop, fizz, fizz is fast, fast. For heartburn alone, try Alka-2, the one you chew.
Oh, what a relief it is.
Near Locust Grove, Oklahoma, today searchers hunted through woods and thickets for an escaped convict charged with killing 3 Girl Scouts who were on a camping trip earlier this month. Mike Jackson reports.
It was a posse, more than 200 townspeople at Locust Grove at sunrise today to help find the man charged with the killings.
Our line will form here. We'll move through here. The anchor people stay with this rope.
This is the man they are looking for, Jean Leroy Hart, an escaped convict sentenced to 110 years in prison for rape, kidnapping, and burglary. And this is where they looked, Skunk Mountain, about a mile from the Girl Scout camp. A farmer said he saw Hart around here yesterday. It was a dragnet search, a line of men a mile long, several feet apart, climbing fences over several square miles and hacking through the brushy forests.
Police expected it would be difficult to find the suspect here in these hills because he is a native here, an outdoorsman, and has successfully evaded the police for more than 4 years since he escaped from the county jail in 1973. And even though he has relatives here, police do not think that they would shelter him.
We know that they have harbored him in the past and supplied him in the past. But I think in view of this type crime, I feel like that they've thrown him to the wolves.
Local, county, and state police searched another area not far away today, and their search was unsuccessful too. Mike Jackson, NBC News, Locust Grove, Oklahoma.
The Pentagon said today that all it needs to put the neutron warhead into production is an okay from President Carter and some money from the Congress. The neutron warhead kills people but destroys fewer buildings. It kills by radiation rather than blast. President Carter still hasn't decided on production of the neutron warhead. The Pentagon wants it, but some people in the Congress don't. Here are two reports.
The Pentagon's first choice for the neutron warhead is the Lance, a battlefield missile which now carries a 1,000-ton nuclear warhead. If war broke out in Europe, these missiles would kill a lot of enemy soldiers and destroy a lot of enemy tanks, but they would also kill a lot of civilians in the process and ravage the land. The neutron warhead is only a tenth as destructive as current warheads, so the Pentagon says they would kill just as many enemy soldiers, but greatly reduce casualties and damage in the surrounding countryside. The Pentagon also wants to put neutron warheads on some of its heavy artillery, like these 155-millimeter howitzers and the larger 8-inch guns. Russian tanks are now protected against radiation from nuclear fallout, but Pentagon sources say that the Soviet tanks, which badly outnumber NATO forces in Europe, could not survive the more intense radiation from neutron warheads. One expert in the Pentagon said using neutron warheads could set Russian tank technology back 10 to 20 years. So the Pentagon believes neutron warheads are a deterrent to war. Under current conditions, the Russians might risk war in Europe, the Pentagon says, but with neutron warheads in the field, the Pentagon believes the Russians will think twice before launching an attack. Charles Quinn, NBC News, Washington.
On Capitol Hill, opponents of the high radiation shell cannot argue against the weapon itself in public because it is classified. So they're suggesting the legislation is irregular. The president asking for the money without saying whether or not he wants the weapon. That, says Senator Hatfield, is taking the decision away from Congress.
We got into the longest war in history in Vietnam because we had abdicated the constitutional responsibility of the Congress as much as by the fact the president was embarked upon bad policy. And I think we should have learned from that we do not operate under a system of one-man rule.
In the Congress, you're supposed to authorize spending before appropriating money. But the House already appropriated money for the neutron shell without authorizing it. In other words, they signed the check without the usual permission. Because of Hatfield, the Senate is sure to have a thorough argument before it is asked to co-sign the check. John Hart, NBC News at the Capitol.
The Senate refused today to vote President Carter the money to carry out his blanket pardon of Vietnam draft evaders. The House had refused earlier, so it doesn't look as though the president will get the money for his program this year. At Fort Rucker, Alabama today, a board of officers recommended that Specialist 4th Class Marie Soda be honorably discharged from the U.S. Army. The board ruled that Specialist Soda is unsuitable for the Army because she is married to a transsexual, a woman who underwent hormone treatments to become a man. Soda's husband, Christian von Hofberg, is psychologically a man, the board said, but biologically still a woman.
Forget flying. You know Greyhound's always inexpensive. This summer, even more so. Only $75 or less will take you anywhere in America Greyhound goes. Border to border, coast to coast. How far can you fly for 75 bucks? Tell them, Pearl.
When you want to take a trip, honey, why fly? Greyhound will save you more. My, say hello to a goodbye. Go Greyhound. There's other way, they're smooth and they're reasonable. Woo!
In 1962, when I got married, I didn't know anybody who really thought enough about taking good care of their health, and that included me. But ever since I started a family of my own, I changed my thinking. And that's why I try to get my rest and exercise, and why I take Geritol every day.
Geritol. To be sure you get enough iron, more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement, and some very important vitamins. Take a look at what Geritol can do for you.
Geritol every day.
Secretary of State Cyrus Vance said today that the United States and the Soviet Union have a clear difference over the issue of human rights and substantial differences on arms control. In other fields, he said, things are better. Vance met today with French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing for a briefing on the visit to France of Soviet President Brezhnev. Brezhnev and Giscard have just finished 3 days of talks. Bishop Josiah Kabira was elected president of the Lutheran World Federation today. He is 52, an American-educated Tanzanian, the first black ever to hold that post, the senior position in the Lutheran Church, which has 58 million members. At the Wimbledon Tennis Championships today, it was youth versus age in the women's singles, and the old lady won the match. The old lady isn't really that old. Chris Evert is 22, but the kid who was playing her is just that, a kid, and this year's Wimbledon sensation. John Dancy reports.
She looks like everybody's kid sister. Hair in ponytails, braces on the teeth, and a passion for the Muppets. But when she hits a tennis ball, Tracy Austin looks like nobody's kid sister. She's 14 years old, and she's been playing since she was 5. The last 7 years under coach Bob Lansdorf. She is U.S. Women's Junior Champion in the under-16 division, and this year she won enough points to compete at Wimbledon. The youngest player in the history of the 100-year-old tournament.
Nice shot.
And is she nervous about playing in the biggest tournament in the world?
It's very exciting. I always dreamed to play with the big women's stars, but I didn't think it would come so soon.
Is it a little intimidating? Does it frighten you at all?
No.
You've got a little self-confidence, haven't you?
I don't know. I just try to do my best.
In her long dress, Tracy Austin looked somehow like a little girl on her way to a party as she and Miss Evert walked onto center court, and she captured the crowd completely. Tracy put together a series of backhands and forehands that held Miss Evert deep in her own court. To her surprise, Evert, who hadn't even bothered to remove her warm-up jacket, lost the first game, and the crowd burst into cheers for Tracy Austin. Miss Evert took off her jacket and began to bear down on the 14-year-old. She quickly got the match under control and went far ahead. There was never really any doubt that Tracy Austin would lose to Chris Evert, but neither was there any doubt who had won the hearts of the fans. The final score was 6-1, 6-1, but Tracy Austin had played as cruelly as any champion, and there was always next year. John Dancy, NBC News at Wimbledon.
Somewhere east of Newfoundland this evening, riding gently in the swells, is a boat built of ox hides over a wooden frame in the manner of a 6th century Irish curragh. Aboard are 4 men who left Ireland last year to prove that Irish seamen from that distant age may have been the first to reach America. And it looks as though they are going to make it. This is the boat and its crew as they left Ireland in 1976. The boat is called St. Brendan, after an Irish monk who is thought to have made a journey like this long ago. It was sighted yesterday by a Canadian Coast Guard vessel, and the 4 crewmen were fine, if a bit waterlogged.
For temporary relief of occasional hemorrhoid symptoms, use Preparation H. In many cases, Preparation H gives hours of comfort from pain and itch. Preparation H starts with a medical ingredient recognized as soothing by experts on hemorrhoids. Then Preparation H adds ingredients that go beyond soothing, actually help shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues caused by inflammation. Get Preparation H. It does more than soothe. Help shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues. Doctor tested. Preparation H.
When I grow up, I'm going to have a big house for all my dolls. When I get big, I'm going to own my own business and pay my men with ice cream. I'm going to own a car, a boat.
Whatever your dreams are, someday you will need insurance. At Continental Insurance, we can insure you, your home, your car, your business, and all your other dreams that come true.
And I'm going to see the whole world as soon as I'm allowed to cross the street.
It can torment anyone. Painful itching.
Honey, stop scratching. It'll get infected.
Insect bites, rashes, don't suffer. Get Lanacaine.
This dry skin, itching.
Dry skin itching, don't suffer. Get Lanacaine.
This itching's driving me crazy.
Burning itching, don't suffer. Lanacaine's medically tested ingredient helps stop itching fast, and its antibacterial action permits natural healing. Itching, don't suffer. Get Lanacaine. Also Lanacaine spray.
And now a special report on the literary scene, on some books that are phenomenal bestsellers. Their author may not win prizes for literature, only the undying affection of her publisher. Here is Betty Rollin.
9 a.m. at a shopping mall in Schaumburg, Illinois, and the line began 2 hours ago. It's not a dress sale, nor is it Robert Redford. No, the object of all the attention, the person whose autograph is being sought, is 41-year-old Kathleen Woodywiss, housewife, mother of 3, and the woman whose typewriter is behind all this. Shauna has just been published, and it's already in a 7th printing. That's 1,700,000 books. Her last 2 books also sold spectacularly, and Mrs. Woodywiss is not alone. She is one of a stable of women writers of historical, some say hysterical, romance that keep these presses running for millions of buyers. For the publishers involved, paperback tales of heroines quivering under crinolines, crushed against gentlemen with swords, beards, and flaring nostrils, have become big business. Very big business.
I think these books are the most significant event in current publishing in America. They represent to us, in 3 writers, about 25 million copies out in the market, which will produce a gross sale of about $50 million.
One reason these books sell so well is how they're sold and where. The promotion and advertising campaign for Shauna has been tremendous. And for a mass market paperback, the book itself is both unusually large and expensive, $3.95. And the book is being sold not only in bookstores, but in supermarkets, just a cart roll away from the ketchup and the canned corn. Still, what sells the likes of Shauna is primarily what's inside. And here's what all the fuss is about. His mouth swooped down upon hers, twisting, bruising, rousing. Shauna struggled weakly, trying to summon some logic from the chaos in her mind. Pleasure seeped through the barrier of her own will. The brutal crush of his lips on hers, his strong arms holding her clasped to his work-hardened frame, became somehow bearable, and she was answering, not fighting anymore, growing warm. A kiss is a really big deal in these books. Some of the other books of this genre are racier than Mrs. Woodywiss's, but it seems it is not explicit sex that the readers go for. It's explicit mush and implicit escape.
It gets you away from everyday life, you know.
What's wrong with your everyday life?
Nothing, but it's so routine. It kind of gets you away from the routine.
Do you think these books are sexy?
No. Very moral. If there is a sexy passage, it's always with her husband.
Takes me away from the housework, the dirty dishes, the kids, the bills. Just an escape. It's terrific. What kind of an escape? Well, into the 17th century, and I am Heather, and get away. It's terrific. Like you become that character that you're reading about. Right. I should be so lucky. How does your husband feel about your He thinks escape? I'm screwy. He thinks I'm screwy. Kathleen Woody-Wiss has her own view of what her books are all about, and it's not so different from that of her readers.
It's just really a fairy tale, and it's just to give pleasure for a time. I do not intend ever to give people more trouble than what they have, and it's just an escape, and that's what I intend it to be, and nothing serious. I don't try to get across any morals or anything. So.
Is the sex in the book part of the escape?
Well, sex is part of life, and I try to treat it with respect. I think sex can be dirty, and I try to stay away from that, so I try to put it in a beautiful vein. So,
how do you do that?
Well, I guess I have to get in the mood.
These days, Mrs. Woody-Wiss needs some escape herself, and she gets it in rural Minnesota, where she lives with her husband, a retired Air Force major. When Mrs. Woody-Wiss isn't grinding out romance, which she does 8 hours a day, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week, she partakes in a bit of it herself. All the ingredients are there: one Prince Charming, one lovely lake, and $2 million in book royalties to make all of that romance a little more real. Betty Rollin, NBC News, Princeton, Minnesota.
Well, that's it for this evening. David Brinkley remains on vacation, but John Hart will be here on Saturday, Catherine Mackin on Sunday, and I'll be back on Monday. Until then, good night for NBC News.
As an apricot grower, I'm mighty particular about apricot-flavored desserts. Well, we found one that's just terrific. New apricot-flavored Jell-O brand gelatin.
Sweet, but tart like apricots, so I can make lots of new apricot-flavored desserts my family loves.
I like it. It even smells like apricot. Mommy, does it grow on trees? No, silly.
But it sure tastes like it does.
New apricot-flavored Jell-O brand gelatin. There's something new in apricot country.
Is short hair in, Sally?
Yes, but white gloves are out.
Not when you've got age spots.
Those brown patches? Don't hide them. Fade them with Esoterica. Used daily as directed, Esoterica works below the skin surface. In most cases, age spots rise and fade off. No gloves, Mrs. Davis?
No problem, Sally. That Esoterica really works.
Don't hide age spots. Fade them with Esoterica.
See top stars like Ili Nastasi, Jimmy Connors, Bjorn Borg, Chris Evert, Billie Jean King, and more as NBC Sports celebrates the 100th anniversary of Wimbledon. See exclusive coverage Saturday and Sunday afternoons on NBC, the network of the 1980 Olympics.
When do you say Budweiser?
When we're packing up and heading out.
And it's pick-a-pear time.
When do you say Budweiser?
When it's pick-a-pear time.
And also Harry's Poker Night.
Yes, indeed. Pick-a-pear time's the perfect time to say Budweiser. Twice. You got it.
When you say Budweiser,
Pick-a-pear.
Partner.
You said it all.
What better way for the whole family to spend a glorious, fun-filled day than at Fantabulous Beach Bend Park, with its many rides, exciting drag racing, and just plain old relaxing, where something special is always going on. See over